difficult. Some of you folks have probably heard about ANWR. This is the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge in the northern part of the state of Alaska. What they call the coastal plain was set aside by Congress many, many years ago for the potential for drilling for oil. And under the Trump administration, once again, there was the tax law that was passed allowed drilling leases to be sold in ANWR. Those leases were sold, and all of a sudden, when the Biden administration comes in, they are doing everything they can to cancel those leases. This fine potentially has billions of barrels of oil as well. So that's an example. Offshore oil leases in Cook Inlet are being slowed down. The price of the leases are being raised to make it more difficult. So instead of enhancing opportunity, they're killing opportunity. Again, going to raise the cost of doing business here in the United States and in Alaska is just going to cause energy to cost more and make us rely more on our adversaries. The irony is this, Sean. Again, we can pump much more oil in Alaska, but because of the policies of the Biden administration, we're importing more and more oil from Russia, just a couple miles from America.
All right.
Well, and I would add to that, Wyoming is 48% of our surface estate is owned by the feds, and 65% of our mineral estate is owned by the feds. I grew up on a ranch outside of Fort Laramie, Wyoming. Our gasoline costs are one of the most important inputs that we have, as well as our electricity for running our center pivots and irrigating and things like that. Everything that we do is impacted by these terrible policies. And what I think it comes down to is it's a matter of control, because all of this really is monetary policy. This is an affirmative policy by this administration to kowtow to the radical environmentalists. And what's really going to happen is the poorest among us are going to become poorer, and the middle class is going to be hit the hardest. There is really the purpose of government is to protect its citizens, to protect the freedoms that we have. Yet we have an administration that has truly gone to war with the average person in this country. They want your food prices to go up. They want your energy prices to go up. They want those kinds of things. We can talk about what they're doing with our education establishment, and there are so many areas that they're touching. And the reality is that every single thing that they've touched so far has been a disaster. And this is just one of the many areas. And eventually you have to come to the conclusion that this isn't by accident. They're trying to fundamentally transform the United States of America, and we're not going to let them. We're going to stop them through policies like this, through working with Governor Dunleavy and pushing back against this idea that the federal government has the right to dictate how we develop our energy and how we use our energy.
It's real simple, Sean. This is part and parcel of a massive social engineering process that we're undergoing in this country right now. Whether it's, as Harry said, whether it's schools, whether it's dividing this country along racial and ethnic lines, et cetera, et cetera. It's also about in a way, making us poor, making us less secure. And it's all about policy as we started this conversation. It's all about policy. You got to put the right people in place to make sure you have the right policy. If you don't, we're at an inflection point in the history of this country right now. If you don't, you're going to get more of what you're seeing now, and it's going to accelerate. So really, this is the time to really change this thing around and turn it around for good.
Let me ask you a question. If someone here at CPAC goes home, and they're having a discussion with their crazy aunt or uncle who's like, the Biden administration, I read the Washington Post, and none of this is Biden's fault. It's still Trump's fault. I mean, we know how that plays out. What policies could you specifically point to and say, okay, if you did these three things, you could immediately, so if you're having that argument, what would you arm somebody with in terms of messaging points and say, just tell them that we could do this, this, and this? What are those three things that we should be doing that would make us more energy independent?
Well, first of all, making the lease process a lot easier, streamlining our studies and our permitting processes instead of making it 7 years and 12 years and 15 years, really shrinking that. Actually, what we should be doing now is declaring an energy emergency for this country so that we can flatten all this regulation right now, get drilling right now, oil, gas, you name it, right now. We can do that.
So, can I ask you a question, though? In the state of Alaska, what's the percentage of people that say, I just heard what the governor said, and I'm with them 100%?
The vast majority.
That's what I don't understand. The people of your state, and Harry, I mean, I assume that's it's mind-boggling that you've got these folks, these leftists in Washington are saying, we know better for Alaska.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something. So my wife is an Inupiaq Eskimo lady, born above the Arctic Circle, live in a small village. Her people on the North Slope, these are the folks that hunt whales, sit on the North Slope oil fields, the largest oil fields in North America. They want to drill. They want to drill because they know what energy does for them, and they know what the wealth does to transform their communities. And so this is a fight for the future of this country, not just my state, but the future of this country. What is this country going to look like? Are we going to deliberately, through social engineering policies, make this a poorer country, a weaker country? Or are we going to turn this around here in a few months to make sure that America is back on top again?
I absolutely agree. It is a matter of bureaucrats making legislative decisions about what we're going to do. So as you say, Washington, D.C., some egghead in Washington, D.C., is making a decision about what we're doing in Wyoming. And we have been very effective in terms of drilling for our oil and gas, doing it environmentally sound, the same with our coal, the same with uranium. We have all of these natural resources that we can be using to make our lives better. One of the things I'm so proud of coming from Wyoming is we make people's lives better. We heat your homes in the winter, we cool your homes in the summer, we put food on your table, we put a roof over your head, and we pave your highways. That's a lot to be proud of coming from the state of Wyoming. And I don't want to have to continuously be fighting someone in Washington, D.C. who is going to make the decision that, you know what, Harriet, we're not going to let you do that this year. We don't like that you're doing that. We are the most prosperous, the very best, the most incredible country on earth because of what we've been able to do with the freedom and the development and the opportunities we've had. We are incredibly, we have so much ingenuity in this country, and we have so many different ways of addressing whatever the problems are. And we happen to have an administration in place right now that is doing everything that it can to block our ability to pursue what we know is our natural God-given rights. And so it has been really crazy how much power has been stockpiled in Washington, D.C. We need to stop stockpiling power in Washington, D.C., and we need to stop sending all of their money because it's really fundamentally broken. And when you have an administration like this, it becomes so evident so quickly. I think that everybody in this room is probably stunned at how fast this happened, but that's also why I'm optimistic, because I know that we can fix it very quickly as well. Just unleash the ingenuity of the American people.
It's just real quick. It's a tale of two administrations, and it couldn't be more stark. The previous administration was about opportunity and hope. Really was. This administration is about cancellation and trepidation. We don't know what the future holds under this administration. We have an idea, but the past administration was truly about opportunity and hope, and we got to get back to that opportunity and hope.
Totally agree. Let me ask you though, it's hard to believe considering what's happened in the last 12 months, but we're only in the first year of a 4-year Biden term. How concerned are you about, I mean, look, if you think about what's happened in 12 months, I'm really worried about the industry.
Yeah.
What does the industry look like at the end of 4 years? Because I think Harriet's got a great point. I think their goal is to try to figure out how to snuff it out as much as possible and then just build windmills.
It'll look like Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the richest countries on the face of the earth, has more oil than any other locale, timber, gold, you name it. And because of poor policies, they've destroyed that country. That's what we're looking at unless we change things around. We're going to make ourselves weaker. We're not going to make ourselves stronger on this.